This was Clowny, and Clowny had an energy field, and this is what she says. Clowny sometimes takes me in his spacecraft. The colours are grey and black. I get there because Clowny flies, not with wings, he floats. Isn't that interesting? Clowny's energy field is white, yellow, red, pink and blue. And she said, he used to scare me, but Mum and Dad said he's my friend. I thought Clowny was stealing me, but he was healing me. Clowny said he will protect everyone in my family. And there's another one with the energy field of Clowny. And she also said this, Clowny's like a friend to me, takes me away at night sometimes, but not so often anymore, because he used to take me a lot when I was little, but I think it's because I've seen everything up there already. Don't you love the way they say these things? This little boy is her brother, and he actually says he sees angels. He's called Clowny too. They both think this is quite normal, by the way. There's no big deal here. This is, again, as you can see, there's a spacecraft, there's Clowny, and there's his body, and he's got 3 fingers, and the legs are all fuzzy. Well, if he floats, maybe they look fuzzy, I don't know. But again, children draw what they see, I believe. Now, I'm going to take you into the real weird stuff now, just for a minute, because I can tell you, the times I've tried to work out what reality is, and found that I've been taken to another level, is more times than I can count. This particular book, this 5-year-old, this little boy, you've just seen the drawings he's done, took this particular book to bed with him every night. And he used to scan the pages with his hand. His mother didn't understand why, but he was insistent that this was the book he took to bed. But he was not only insistent of that, he had to make sure his sister, the anchor, actually had it every other night. And she had to take it to bed. Now this is really, really interesting, but what does it mean? The interesting thing that goes with this is that one day, both children came down holding the same book. So we had 2 books, not just one, with the mother having no idea how the other one came to be in her daughter's hands. Now, this is really interesting, isn't it? But, you know, what do you make of that? So for me, it was, okay, let's ask someone else who has same kind of multi-dimensional experiences. They can understand what went on there, what actually happened. And I'm going to tell you what Jason, if you remember the picture in Murdoch, what Jason, when Anne asked him actually about this, because Anne found this fascinating, and she said to Jace, can you tell Mary what you think went on? And this is what Jason said. Jason said it was easily explained. Oh yeah, right. The child reading the book with his hand was scanning the pages with his palm. The palm of the hand is a strong energy channel, known as a minor chakra. So by scanning this way, the child was reading the energy signature, not the words. He could pick up the essence of the stories with the author's emotions, moods at the time, and the creating of the words. He could still enjoy to some extent and understand the story in this way, but through an emotional journey, rather than allowing the words to stimulate the imagination, as most mortals do. As for reproducing the same book, easy. I've told you before how we can manipulate time, as time in a linear sense just doesn't exist. It's a human invention to separate events and to make sure you conform to what's expected in your lives. All the child did was go backwards, through time if you like, and bring the same book back to the present with him. So the sister had the same book, literally. Now you can make what you like of that, but I have to say, it sounds really interesting. Children of all ages having experiences. This is a 10-year-old, but notice no nose and no mouth, and a flat head. A 13-year-old girl drew this one, flat heads, and also what I call the oval head. So what you're getting is patterns again. Patterns where children are seeing similar images. This gives it a lot of credibility in my book. Now these images come from a family in Canada that was sent to me. And what was interesting about this story was that there was the 11-year-old and the 13-year-old brothers. And they both had the same dream the same night, and both were traumatized by it, and could draw what happened in the dream. Now, how many of you can actually remember what your dream was about 2 seconds later? Let alone actually draw what you saw. and to have it qualified by another member of the family is a bit most of us to actually accept, eh? So, okay, this is what he drew, and this is what he said about this particular being. This is the younger brother. It had no ears, no eyebrows, the nose was just slits, there were no fingernails, the face had no expression, and he talked about the craft that landed above the house. And as you can see, some of these interesting things that they held. He said the craft actually landed on top of the building. His brother that was older drew this being, and he said he felt the beings were like scientists or curious about us. He was told that it was something to do with genetics. Here we go again, same thing, genetics. Isn't that interesting? And he said that what he was holding was like a thing that put you to sleep. He said it wasn't to kill anyone. But the lovely thing about this story that I think gives it more credibility than anything else is this, that the older brother felt uncomfortable about remembering the details the same as his brother. But he does remember leaving at the same time, and his younger brother was crying. If I have to go on the spaceship, then I'm bringing my teddy. And his older brother was helping him find it because he knew they didn't have much time. Isn't that really interesting? Now let's go to the older star children, and there's many, many things that they tell me that correspond with many others around the world. But I'm just going to give you 4 of those because I've had these qualified so many times by other experiences. I could take hard-boiled eggs from boiling water with my bare hands. I've heard this story so many times, and Jason was one of those that told me it. And I remember talking about this in Kalamunda, and a lady in her middle years told me that she could do the same thing. I could turn off street lights with my mind. I would have telepathic conversations with my sister until she told me to stop being lazy and start talking. I could open flower buds with my mind. Now there are a group of children in China called China Super Psychics, and it's written about by Paul Dong. And what he actually talks about is these children are being investigated in China at Beijing University. And what they're finding is these children, which they call children with exceptional human functioning, actually can open buds of flowers with their mind. They can also move things from one place to another with their mind, and can even affect DNA in a petri dish with their mind. They can also, some of them, see things with other parts of their body, not just their eyes. And this is also known to happen in Mexico, where over 1,000 children can actually see without their eyes, can actually see with their hands and other parts of their body. So we're talking about a multi-dimensional kind of sensing. Tracy Taylor is one of our own. She comes from Geraldton, beautiful young lady who presented herself to me probably about 7 or 8 years ago now. And she's the one that says the reason for this is that DNA of the star kid has 10-fold the amount of information than normal humans. She also talks about some really other things that go with that. And this is what I'd like to tell you that she says. There's a race of beings upon the planet, increasing in number, although visually and physically indistinguishable to most humans. They're the bringers of the new, the bringers of the light. They're here to guide the awakening of terrestrial consciousness. Human beings are here to remember themselves with conscious awareness and with complete understanding of their innate connection to the universe. This is the primary role of all of these new children coming to planet Earth. Now, how interesting is that? With this full awareness, they're born into terrestrial consciousness. And every year from now on, the conscious awareness of these new babies is ever increasing to override the dominant conditioning and programming which occurs from birth on this planet. And all of you know about that. She said star kids are able to bypass the inferior clutter of the mind to link directly to the subconscious with a clarity and awareness that is what's known as the higher self, or superconscious. They have direct connection to this higher awareness, which is represented by enhanced DNA-structured bodily workings and functions. And there are many other things she talks about, but I really want to get through some of the other things that I've got to share with you. So, okay, so we're getting something really interesting here, aren't we? Children that seem to be being born all over the world, that are being recognised by all sorts of names, indigos, crystals, Star Children or whatever. There seems to be a program of some